What up, YouTube? Here with a review video for this year's SummerSlam. Now, this is how I do my wrestling review videos. I will review every match that happened on the card and give a rating for each match, a rating out of a 5. And at the end of the video, I will give the whole pay-per-view event a rating out of a 10. Now, without any further ado, let's get to the reviewing part. The opening contest to this year's SummerSlam was the match with Ricochet and Logan Paul. Now, this is a good pace setter to start the event, and Logan Paul, with the status that he has and the notoriety that he has prior to being a part-time talent with the WWE, which he's played that part very well because he performs amongst the best of the WWE. I mean, you look at his in-ring debut at WrestleMania 38, that was his start to professional wrestling. He did exceptional there, and then at SummerSlam, he had a one-on-one match with The Miz, and he proved himself yet again. Instead of a tag team match where he had to share the spotlight with 3 other wrestlers, he actually got to get in there with an opponent by himself, and then he got the challenge for the Universal title versus the head honcho, the top dog, the guy in the WWE, that being Roman Reigns, at Crown Jewel. And then at this year's WrestleMania, he had a great match versus arguably the best in-ring performer in all of professional wrestling, Seth Rollins, and he has highlight reel spots after highlight reel spots. You look at his highlight reel spot at the Royal Rumble, and his athleticism allows him to hang in there with the best of them in the WWE. And this match with Ricochet, it led from that highlight reel spot that they had at this year's Royal Rumble. After that highlight reel moment, and as well as in the Money in the Bank, and to compete in a ladder match, it is a very difficult match to perform. And Logan Paul not being a full-time wrestler and him not starting his adult life as a devoted pro wrestler, and for him to compete in a match like that, it's impressive. That's why there shouldn't be any shadow of a doubt when it comes to Logan Paul and him bracing the ring when it comes to the WWE or pro wrestling in general. And Ricochet, much like Seth Rollins, he is a great in-ring performer, and with these two starting this year's SummerSlam, now that is a good set pacer, and it didn't disappoint. This match had highlight reel spots. Logan Paul showing off his athleticism and his ability to pull off spectacular moves when it comes to performing matches. And we all know how Ricochet can perform as well when it comes to the pace that he wrestles at and when it comes to his in-ring ability. And Logan Paul ended up getting the win. To my surprise, if y'all haven't seen my prediction video, I would like for y'all to go check it out. I did predict that Ricochet will win this match, and I said why he should win this match, because unlike Logan Paul, Ricochet is a full-time talent, and he's gone underappreciated. He was a good talent in Japan when he was wrestling there, as well as the indie circuit, and then in NXT, he was a valuable name in NXT during the developmental stages, and then when he got the call up to the main roster, he been competing amongst the mid-card scene for ever since he got the call up from NXT. And to be real, he didn't become NXT World Champion. He was also competing for the mid-card title scene at the developmental stages in NXT as well. And I would say other than his United States Championship win when he was first wrestling in the main roster, and his Intercontinental title reign wasn't memorable because during those times the mid-card titles lost its prestige, and they recently just brought back the prestige back to the mid-card titles. And that's why I say this was the, I would say, key moment, the most spotlighted rivalry that Ricochet has had in the WWE. And for him to lose, I thought it would have been a better look and more important for a full-time wrestler like Ricochet to get the win, and to get a win over somebody as notable as Logan Paul would have been a definite good look and would be the push that Ricochet very much deserves to elevate his career to the next level in the WWE. And the way he lost, it leaves room for this rivalry to continue, and hopefully the next time that they have a rematch, they can perform with more time and put on better moves. They did perform. Both wrestlers had their time to shine, and they had their time to show off their moves. And Logan Paul got the win in a very heelish fashion. One of his buddies who was hiding out under the ring handed him a brass knuckle while the referee was attending to Ricochet. And then when Ricochet went to go at Logan Paul, who was staggered, and Logan Paul whole time was playing possum, hiding the brass knuckle under his fist, and he would strike him with that lucky punch, as he calls it, and he would get the win that way. And that's why I say this rivalry is probably going to continue after SummerSlam. I don't know when. I would guess since Logan Paul is a part-time wrestler until Crown Jewel or Survivor Series, whenever Logan Paul is scheduled again to make an appearance, Ricochet will probably perform on Monday Night Raw, back to being a full-time wrestler and performing at the mid-card scenes, calling out Logan Paul and building that rematch with him and Logan Paul. And I give this opening contest of this year's SummerSlam a match rating of a 3 out of a 5. And then the next match on the card, we saw the trilogy bout with Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes. And this has been a rivalry the WWE has been focused on and has been putting a lot of emphasis on. And this rivalry started the Raw after WrestleMania, where Brock Lesnar turned on Cody Rhodes for whatever reason, when Brock Lesnar looked like he was going to join forces and align himself with Cody Rhodes to fight off the bloodline. And that was the scheduled main event for the Raw after Mania. Then to close that show, Brock Lesnar annihilates Cody Rhodes, and then that started the rivalry that began the rivalry with Brock Lesnar and Cody Rhodes. And then Cody Rhodes got a fluke of a victory at Backlash, where Brock Lesnar, he bladed, he had got a cut above his eye, right in between his eyebrows, from the exposed turnbuckle that he hit his head on. And then that was a part of the storyline as well, because Brock Lesnar didn't appreciate how Cody Rhodes had him looking after their match at Backlash. And Cody Rhodes, I call that first win a fluke of a win, because Brock Lesnar looked like he had Cody Rhodes in his grasp when he had locked in the Kimura lock, and Cody Rhodes had rolled him up to get the win. And that is a cliche babyface move, and it still makes Brock Lesnar, who really doesn't need to be pushed as the beast because he already is that, and that makes Cody Rhodes look more like the underdog that he is and he was being sold as in the storyline. And Brock Lesnar, it still makes him look like Brock Lesnar. And then they had a rematch at Night of Champions, Brock Lesnar being very zealous and very focused on vengeance after his loss versus Cody Rhodes at Backlash, and then he would go on to assault Cody Rhodes yet again, injuring his arm, and then that played a factor to their rematch at Night of Champions where Brock Lesnar got the win. Cody Rhodes yet again looking like an underdog, not tapping out and passing out instead, showing how resilient and how much fortitude that he has as a babyface. And Brock Lesnar got the win that way, and he had locked in the Kimura lock on the injured arm of Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes, as I said, not tapping out, passing out instead. And then with them being tied at 1 win each, they would have a tiebreaker, a trilogy bout with each other at SummerSlam. I was going to say tonight's SummerSlam, yeah. And this was the match following the opening contest to SummerSlam. And this is how you keep the momentum going, and actually I would say amping the momentum a little more from the opening contest with a rivalry that the WWE has invested a lot of time in. And I like how they played the psychological factor in this match, yet again selling Cody Rhodes as being this resilient underdog. Brock Lesnar putting a beating on them, taking them to Suplex City. Brock Lesnar was dumping them outside of the ring, and Cody Rhodes kept coming back, kept trying to fight back. And Brock Lesnar, as well as the announcer, shout out to Michael Cole and Corey Graves, who was commentating for this event, saying, oh, stay down, Cody Rhodes. It would be best for Cody Rhodes to just give up and let Brock Lesnar get the W. And Brock Lesnar kept saying, save yourself. He don't want to whoop his ass the way how he was whooping his ass. And then Cody Rhodes found the fire under him, and then he started to get back at Brock Lesnar, making him look like more that cliche underdog babyface that the fans can get behind. And that is an element of pro wrestling that all pro wrestling fans can support. And no other wrestler that you could make this story work better than a Brock Lesnar, somebody as decorated as a Brock Lesnar, and to have him have a babyface like Cody Rhodes go over is definitely a good look, a momentum driver that a wrestler, I'm going to say a wrestler like a Cody Rhodes can use to elevate himself to the next level. And Cody Rhodes, I did predict that he would get this win, which he did, and he got the win after hitting the trifecta crossroads on Brock Lesnar, getting a clean victory this time versus Brock Lesnar, unlike his win at Backlash from their first match. And Brock Lesnar, after this match, would shake the hands of Cody Rhodes, and he was giving respect to Cody Rhodes for the intense rivalry that they shared ever since the Raw after WrestleMania. And this rivalry, it obviously calls for an end because that's what they was promoting this match as. And another factor that I thought was very clever during this match was the fact that Cody Rhodes, who Brock Lesnar has been targeting the arm of, would lock in the same hold that Brock Lesnar has hurt him with week after week, and that's the Kimura lock. And I thought that was a very clever part when it comes to the creativity in this match, and I like the chemistry that these two wrestlers share. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3.5 out of a 5. And I think the next move that would be best for Cody Rhodes is for him to challenge Seth Rollins, who I don't say he has unfinished business with, because he beat Seth Rollins in every match that he's had with Seth Rollins. I would say it wouldn't be much of a continuation. I would say it is more of Cody Rhodes chasing that world title that means so much to him and his family and the legacy of his family to win a world title in the WWE, which has been the selling point of his return to the WWE, is him chasing that world title. And that would be the selling point to the rivalry with him and Seth Rollins. The fact that he has Seth Rollins' number, and that would be a edging factor, a advantage that Cody Rhodes would have over Seth Rollins, and that momentum would favor Cody Rhodes over Seth Rollins when or if that is the next rivalry for Cody Rhodes, for him to challenge Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight title. And as for Brock Lesnar, he's probably going to go on a hiatus. We probably won't see Brock Lesnar till, I would guess, either Crown Jewel, Survivor Series, or Royal Rumble. And the Royal Rumble is next year. And I don't know what Brock Lesnar's contract situation is looking like with the WWE. Brock Lesnar doesn't really need the WWE. Brock Lesnar, as I said, is somebody that has accomplished it all, not only in the WWE, but in combat sports in general. And Brock Lesnar, I wouldn't even say he's doing it for the money, because he's already made enough of that. And I would say he's working programs with the talent that he wants to work with and push to the next level and to make them look like gold. And I don't know if Brock Lesnar is going to retire. I don't know who would be a fitting rival for Brock Lesnar to get in a storyline with next. Anyway, the next match on this year's SummerSlam, we saw the Battle Royal, and I did pick LA Knight to be the winner, and he did in fact win this Battle Royal, and this pushes LA Knight to the next level. And I said this in my preview video, LA Knight, it's not the fact that WWE wants to really push him to the level that he's getting pushed on right now. It's because the fans are making it that way, and they're leaving WWE no choice but to have LA Knight to go to the next level. And that's a lot to do with his charisma and his ability to talk, and he can perform in the ring as well, and that's what's getting him over with the crowd. And if y'all saw tonight's SummerSlam, y'all would have heard the 50,000 plus who was at the SummerSlam event in attendance. It was going crazy for that guy. And LA Knight got this win in this Battle Royal cleanly, and it would be him and Sheamus. That would be the final two in this Battle Royal match. And there was a surprise entrant as well, Omos, who made his return. We haven't seen Omos since, I think, after Backlash, where he had that match versus Seth Rollins, where he took yet another L, and then he didn't get drafted at this year's draft to either brands, and that makes him a free agent. And he still has MVP accompanying him, and with MVP being his mouthpiece, that still makes Omos somewhat of a relevant factor. And I've been hearing rumors from the dirt sheet that they are trying to reform the Hurt business now that we know that Omos and MVP is back on WWE programming, and we saw Bobby Lashley over there on SmackDown accompanying himself and forming an alliance with the Street Profits, and he's been an influence to the Street Profits to elevate the Street Profits to more of a business savvy, more of a professional looking team that what we have got to know the Street Profits as. And I heard they're gonna make a mega stable with Bobby Lashley, MVP, the Street Profits, and Omos. And I don't know if Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander, who are still tag teams, I don't know if they're gonna join forces with this revival of the Hurt Business. Remember, the original Hurt Business was Bobby Lashley, MVP, Shelton Benjamin, and Cedric Alexander. And now that group would look like a powerhouse group with the Bloodline having the split that they had. And the Bloodline has been the biggest drive, not only as a team, but in all of the WWE. And with the tear being in the Bloodline and them having the storyline that they got going on right now, and with the Judgment Day and their relationship looking rocky, the revival of the Hurt Business can look like they could swoop in there as the number one group in the WWE. And Omos, he was a surprise entrant. They were selling him as a giant still. He didn't get the win though. However, he didn't look bad in this match because it took all the wrestlers that was competing in this battle royal to eliminate him. And the right man won this match, and that being LA Knight. I don't know what they're going to have him do next. I would say he's probably going to still build himself up over there on SmackDown. In the mid-card scene, he's going to have to pick up important W's. And he did that versus the runner-up in this battle royal, that being Sheamus. He got a win over Sheamus on the previous episode of SmackDown the day before SummerSlam. If he gets wins versus somebody of a Sheamus caliber, that would be a momentum builder for a LA Knight, and hopefully sometime in the future we see LA Knight be a challenger for a United States title, and that would be a good look for him. And I'll give this match being a time filler, I'll give this match a 2.5 out of a 5, just because they picked the right guy to win this match. I was gonna give it two stars out of 5, but being nice, I would give it a 2.5 out of a 5 because they booked this match right. And then the next match on the card, we saw a MMA rule match with Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. This got the crowd reaction that I was expecting. When we tap in to a wrestling show, we're there for pro wrestling. We're not there for MMA. We're not there for boxing. We're not there for any other sports. If it's a segment where they're talking, especially when it comes to other forms of combat, we're not there. We're there for the physicality that we know pro wrestling to be, at least speaking for me. And I think this is speaking for majority of pro wrestling fans. And I thought this, I don't know, isn't pay-per-view worthy, because this is a wrestling pay-per-view event, and I know why they had a MMA gimmick match, first time ever, a kayfabe MMA gimmick match on a pay-per-view, because Ronda Rousey being one of the most decorated female MMA fighters of all time, and Shayna Baszler also having a MMA background. That's why they had a MMA ruled match at this year's SummerSlam with these two wrestlers. It would have been much better if we would have saw a regular wrestling match. If anything, they could have made it a submission match with these two wrestlers, and the storyline, because they have history and the way how they built the storyline, they didn't have to put any special gimmick to it. And I wasn't a fan of this gimmick match being announced when it first was announced, because they don't really need it. And however, the storyline stayed the same because of the storyline being the storyline with these two wrestlers. And the way how this match ended, it's looking like there's gonna be a rematch with these two wrestlers, and hopefully the next time it'll be a submission match or some other gimmick themed match with these two wrestlers instead of this. And I'm not saying it wasn't bad. They choreographed it very well. And Shayna Baszler got the wins. And I would say that was the right move. In my prediction video, I did predict that Ronda Rousey would be getting the win, and then Shayna Baszler would win in a rematch. And Shayna Baszler did deserve the win because I would say Shayna Baszler needs more of a push than Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey, her name itself, it sells because it's Ronda Rousey. And Shayna Baszler, she was very successful in her run in NXT. She was an NXT Women's Champion, and she hasn't won a singles title ever since she got the call up to the main roster, and she has been left on the back burner more than she has been spotlighted when she got the call up from NXT. And this has been the most, I would say, spotlighted rivalry that Shayna Baszler has gotten since she got the call up to the main roster. And for her to get a win over somebody as decorated as Ronda Rousey is a good look, and it's a definite push for Shayna Baszler that she very much needs and as well as deserves, because she is a workhorse and she could go in the ring. And I would give this match a rating of a 2.5, 2.5 out of 5 because of the creative of the finish. It looked like Shayna Baszler was injured, and she pulled that genius heel move, and then she would take advantage of Ronda Rousey being distracted, buying herself time, and then she would get Ronda Rousey to pass out after locking in that rear naked choke, and that's how Shayna Baszler got the win. And I did say in my preview video that Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler should have had more time building a relationship as a tag team before getting into a rivalry. However, I do understand why they broke up so quickly is because a event on the caliber of a SummerSlam, which is WWE's second biggest event after WrestleMania, and Ronda Rousey, she be on and off as well. She's like a Brock Lesnar. She's here and there, and she doesn't perform full time. She performs more than, well, I can't say more than Brock Lesnar, because Brock Lesnar has been consistent ever since I'll say SummerSlam. He shows up at WrestleMania, then SummerSlam, and then Crown Jewel, then Royal Rumble, and then unlike last year, this year he was wrestling after WrestleMania, which Brock Lesnar doesn't do that often, and that's more of like a Ronda Rousey schedule. She would wrestle for like a few months, and then she would go on a hiatus for a few months after that, and then she would make a comeback. And I don't know when they will have a rematch. I don't know if they're going to have a immediate rematch at the next event. And as I said, I would like to see for next time a non-MMA style ruled match. I would much rather see a regular wrestling match. If it's going to be gimmick, let it be a wrestling gimmick match. I'll say next time that these two ladies have a match. And then the next match on the card we saw for the Intercontinental title, with Gunther defending his Intercontinental title versus Drew McIntyre. And this match didn't disappoint. As expected, this was a very physical, hard-hitting match. It reminded me a lot of the match that we saw at Clash at the Castle with Gunther and Sheamus. And I would say it wasn't as good as that match, because that was up there as a candidate for last year's match of the year. And I would say if they would have gave Gunther and Drew McIntyre the time slot that Gunther and Sheamus got at Clash at the Castle, then it could have lived up to that potential. And however, this was a very good match as well. It was a very classic, physical, hard-hitting match that we saw with these two wrestlers, and Gunther ended up getting the win, successfully retaining his Intercontinental title, continuing his impressive reign as the Intercontinental Champion, and he is only a few days away from breaking the all-time record and surpassing the Honky Tonk Man as the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. And he got the win cleanly versus Drew McIntyre, and he got the win after Drew McIntyre was going for a spot on the top rope and Gunther pushed him off, and Drew McIntyre hitting his lower part against the top rope and then falling to the canvas, and Gunther hitting him with the Superfly splash and then following it up with the powerbomb to secure the victory, and Gunther retaining his Intercontinental title versus a very well decorated, very well accomplished wrestler who wrestles at a high level like Drew McIntyre, adds on to Gunther's resume and adds on to his impressive reign as the Intercontinental Champion. And I'm sure the WWE's plan is to have Gunther break the all-time record as the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3.5 out of a 5. This was a classic wrestling match that we saw with these two wrestlers. And how Drew McIntyre reacted after the match and the look that he gave out, I would say there might be a character change and they might hot things up with Drew McIntyre, because he looked very disappointed of the outcome of this match. And a heel turn, I would say, would be a surprising good look for Drew McIntyre, and it would be a surprise to a lot of people that are fans of the WWE, and I would say that would give a refreshing start to Drew McIntyre, and I think a lot of people would like that for Drew McIntyre, and that would be, I think, a good move for the WWE on the creative side to make for Drew McIntyre, who has took time off because allegedly, according to the dirt sheets, Drew McIntyre has said that he wasn't pleased with the way how creative has been booking him. And if he wasn't happy and satisfied with the way how creative was booking him, then I think a refreshing start would be the right move for WWE to make with Drew McIntyre. And Drew McIntyre, he took time off to figure out if he was going to re-sign with the WWE. Obviously, he did if he returned at Money in the Bank, and he's been a frequent face over there on Monday Night Raw, and he is a key factor over there on Monday Night Raw. And him being a key factor, I think they should repackage him and revamp him and give him a refreshing character to still have him play a major role on Monday Night Raw. And as for Gunther, he just got to continue his dominant reign as the Intercontinental Champion. And the next match on the card, we saw the World Heavyweight title, the rematch from Money in the Bank, more importantly, the rematch from 7 SummerSlams ago when Finn Balor was the first ever Universal Champion. That reign was short-lived because, unfortunately, he had got injured after a botched buckle bomb, and he had to vacate that title. And I would say this is the second best storyline that the WWE has got going on right now after the Bloodline. The way they built this rivalry up with Seth Rollins and Finn Balor, I would say is tremendous. And the psychology behind it, the storyline behind it, they put a lot of emphasis and a lot of focus on this storyline with Seth Rollins and Finn Balor, and they display that in this match with Finn Balor on his right shoulder, which is the shoulder that he injured at SummerSlam 7 years ago when he got buckle bombed to the barricade, and that had injured his shoulder, and that had to get surgically repaired, and he had row 7 on his right shoulder, reminding himself as a motivating factor to get this win and get more of a revenge, and a sweet prize that comes with getting that revenge is Finn Balor getting the World Heavyweight title if he does get this win over on Seth Rollins. And that's what the storyline has been built on. The fact that Finn Balor took time off from being the first ever Universal Champion, and that was somewhat of a momentum killer for Finn Balor, and he feels very bitter about that, and they've done a great job at selling that point. So that's why I gotta say shout out and much credits to both Finn Balor and Seth Rollins on how they built up this storyline, and Seth Rollins as well, his character being this lunatic, visionary, architect character, and Seth Rollins, he's got the total package when it comes to being a complete wrestler, and he sells that character very well, just like how Finn Balor, his selling point is the fact that he's using what happened 7 years ago as a motivating factor, and Seth Rollins is using what happened 7 years ago to use that motivating factor against Finn Balor to have it weaponized against him. And I think that is a very, very cool factor, a very cool psychological factor, I would say, on the creative side that the WWE has emphasized in this rivalry with Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. And as far as the match itself with these two wrestlers, you're gonna get a high quality wrestling match when you have a wrestler who wrestles on the level of a Seth Rollins and a Finn Balor. And we saw that, I say, since they got more time this time than their first match at Money in the Bank, this was a better match. I'll give this match rating of a 3.5 out of a 5. There was a lot of false finishes in this match. Finn Balor would kick out when Seth Rollins would hit the curb stomp, and that came after Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley, and Dominic Mysterio made an interference on behalf of Finn Balor, their fellow Judgment Day member. And Finn Balor, how they built the story up, because it being personal, Finn Balor wanted to personally get this win by himself. And that's why Finn Balor was asking Damian Priest, what is he doing out there? He's trying to do this on his own, much like how a few months ago when Damian Priest was challenging Seth Rollins for the world title, and Finn Balor was making an interference on the behalf of his fellow Judgment Day member, and Damian Priest was asking his fellow Judgment Day member, Finn Balor, what is he doing out there? It's like a reverse deja vu that happened. We saw at tonight's SummerSlam. And then with that distraction being there, Finn Balor would get hit with the curb stomp. However, Finn Balor would kick out of that curb stomp that Seth Rollins hit him with, and then Finn Balor would get back on his feet and then hit the coup de grace on Seth Rollins, and Seth Rollins showing resilience as well, kicking out. And then when things were looking hazy with both of these wrestlers, we saw the Judgment Day trying to cause a distraction for Finn Balor, and when Seth Rollins was on the top rope, he would kick over Damian Priest, and then he would hit the curb stomp on the outside to Dominic Mysterio, and then Finn Balor would have enough time to lay out Seth Rollins, and then Damian Priest would come up with a tactic to have Finn Balor win the World Heavyweight title. And he slid the Money in the Briefcase like the first time he tried to get Finn Balor to do, and that was to have Finn Balor use the Money in the Bank briefcase to his advantage and hit Seth Rollins with the Money in the Bank briefcase to secure the win. And this time, Finn Balor, when he was crawling towards the Money in the Bank briefcase, after he had refused to use the Money in the Briefcase the first time, Damian Priest presented it to him, and that's what got him curb stomped by Seth Rollins in the first place. And then he hesitated yet again, much like the first time. However, instead of resisting and saying no to using the Money in the Briefcase that was presented to him, this time he would, after hesitating and thinking about it, he would go for it, because the coup de grace and him trying to get the clean win over Seth Rollins wasn't working, so he went for it. However, that time where he hesitated was enough time for the architect, the visionary Seth Rollins, to gather himself together to hit the curb stomp right onto the briefcase, adding that much more blunt force to it, and that would secure the win for Seth Rollins, and he would retain the World Heavyweight title. And now this adds to the angle that the Judgment Day has got going on, especially between Damian Priest and Finn Balor. And with Damian Priest being Mr. Money in the Bank, and Finn Balor now losing back-to-back matches for the World Heavyweight title when he challenged for it, this not only adds to the rocky relationship that the Judgment Day got going on with Damian Priest and Finn Balor, and now the World Heavyweight title scene gets a little more intriguing with how this is going to play out. We'll see if Finn Balor on the next episode of Monday Night Raw, if he's going to voice his opinion from what happened at SummerSlam, because he obviously didn't want the Judgment Day out there to help him get the win, and he could say that Damian Priest's Money in the Bank briefcase and him suggesting that Damian Priest using his Money in the Bank briefcase to help Finn Balor get the win, and him not wanting to use a briefcase could have been a distracting factor on why he didn't get the win at SummerSlam. And then Damian Priest can say he was complaining about Damian Priest not helping him at Money in the Bank, and Damian Priest did what Finn Balor was complaining to him about from what happened at Money in the Bank at SummerSlam, and that caused for more of a disputing angle between Damian Priest and Finn Balor. And the World Heavyweight title, I heard rumors it's going to be a three-way match at Payback with Seth Rollins and Damian Priest and Finn Balor. I think that would be a good wrestling match as well, and a good storyline as well. And things are just picking up with the main angle over there on Monday Night Raw with Seth Rollins and the Judgment Day. And then, speaking of three-ways, we saw a three-way match for the women's title. Asuka defending her women's title versus Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair. And when you have three wrestlers who wrestle at a high level like these three wrestlers, it's bound to produce a great quality wrestling match, and that's exactly what we saw. And Bianca Belair got the win cleanly. And I like the creative angle, the surprise element that they put there with Bianca Belair. This sells her and pushes her as a cliche babyface, that clean babyface, that feel-good babyface. And that's like Bianca's character, her strong moral values, and her never give up attitude. And Bianca Belair, I thought she really got injured after she got pushed off the top rope to the outside. She hit the steel steps, and I thought she really hit her legs on the steel steps, and she sold that very well as the WWE's creative. They sent doctors in ringside positions and officials to go check on Bianca Belair, and Bianca Belair was getting escorted out of the arena, and it looked like it was going to be a one-on-one match with Asuka and Charlotte Flair. And then out of nowhere, we see Bianca Belair come back and hit a 450 splash. Now that obviously showed, that was a surprise factor right there. Her hitting a 450 splash when her legs got injured. Now that obviously goes to show that that leg injury was kayfabe. And then Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair would go at it, and each wrestler got to have their own time to shine. And then Bianca Belair would get hit with the figure eight leg lock by Charlotte Flair, and then Asuka would come out of nowhere and spit the mist right into Charlotte Flair's eyes, taking Charlotte Flair out of there. And then Asuka went to go after Bianca Belair, then Bianca Belair would roll up Asuka to get the win. Now, I did say in my prediction video that Asuka would get the win and should get the win because she just recently won the women's title at Night of Champions. That's only been one pay-per-view removed from SummerSlam. It's SummerSlam, then Money in the Bank, the Night of Champions. It hasn't even been 2 months. If anything, the longest it's been 2 months since Asuka had won the women's title. And with the way how the fans has been pushing Asuka and been getting behind her to support her as the women's champion, and for her to lose the title this quickly, I wasn't a fan of that move. And that's why I was predicting that Asuka will win this match, because it's her first title defense as the women's champion on a pay-per-view, and for her to lose in her first title defense at a pay-per-view, I don't think that was a good look. However, as accomplished as Asuka is, this doesn't make her look bad because of how well accomplished and how well over she is. And Bianca Belair getting the win when Bianca Belair was the last women's champion before Asuka won that from her, I would say that would have been a bad look and a bad booking decision from the WWE. I get it, the feel-good moment. Oh, Bianca Belair, she could have got taken out of action. She had that cliche baby face, never give up attitude. She won on a hurt leg. Great story. I get it. However, I just don't understand what's the point of Asuka winning the title in the first place if they was going to have Bianca Belair win the title back this quickly. Then WWE hits me with this surprise factor. Io Sky missed Money in the Bank, cashes in the Money in the Bank at the perfect opportune time. And her and Bayley would run out there with the Money in the Bank with not with Charlotte Flair, with Bianca Belair winning the women's title yet again, and her having a kayfabe injured leg that called for a perfect opportunity for Io Sky to cash in the Money in the Bank. It was presented right there for her. That's why her running out there with the Money in the Bank with Bayley accompanying her, and Bayley didn't play that much of a factor because Bianca Belair took her out as soon as she tried to attack to helping Io Sky secure the win. And when Bayley and Io Sky ran out there for Io Sky to cash in the Money in the Bank, Io Sky would take out Charlotte Flair with the Money in the Bank briefcase, and then both Bayley and Io Sky ran in there. Bayley got punched in the face by Bianca Belair, and then Io Sky would hit Bianca Belair right in her injured leg, and then that would take out Bianca Belair. Then Io Sky would hit the moonsault to secure the win, becoming the new women's champion and successfully cashing in her Money in the Bank briefcase. And Io Sky, if I talk about Asuka being well over with the crowd, Io Sky, ever since she got the call up from NXT to the main roster and she made her main roster debut with Damage Control, she's been very well received and very well liked by the WWE crowd, and that's why she got the win at this year's Money in the Bank, becoming Miss Money in the Bank. And at tonight's SummerSlam, she successfully cashes in her Money in the Bank to become the new women's champion. And I thought that was a great move on WWE's creative part, because with Bianca Belair getting that feel-good win and her selling this injury and then her getting the win, that caught the crowd's attention, and that had the crowd at a ooze. And then that's when Io Sky came in, and with the angle that the WWE pitched right there, that would get the crowd invested with what's going on, with what was being sold, with that three-way match going on. And I was saying to myself, watching this SummerSlam event, that if they were gonna crown a new champion and have Asuka drop the title this quick, might as well give it to an actual new champion, not the last champion that Asuka won it from. And that's why I was saying, what is WWE Creative doing? However, if you're a smart fan, then you could think on the creative side, I forgot, there's a women's Money in the Bank winner, Io Sky, who has been showing off her Money in the Bank briefcase. However, Damage Control has been getting into a rivalry. Well, more Bayley. This is her rivalry more than Io Sky. Io Sky has been showing off her Money in the Bank briefcase more than anything. Bayley has gotten into a rivalry with Shotzi, and that had got the more of a attention as far as storyline wise, and that's what I at least on my part, I have been sleeping on the fact that Io Sky might not cash in her Money in the Bank briefcase this quick when she had just won it in the last pay-per-view. And this is a definite good look. I'm looking forward to seeing Io Sky as the women's champion. I want to see how her reign goes, and I think it's gonna be good. And this calls for more of a spice, more of a addition to the women's title scene over there on SmackDown. It calls for an intriguing scene with Asuka. She defended her women's title the first time on a pay-per-view since becoming the women's champion, and I know she's got a rematch clause. And Bianca Belair obviously isn't going to be satisfied and happy with the fact that she won the women's title with a hard-fought, very well-deserved earned victory, and she's going to want that women's title back. And Charlotte Flair is going to be in the picture as well for the women's title, and that calls for an intriguing scene for the women's title over there on SmackDown. And I'll give this match a rating of a 3.5 out of a 5. The match itself, the three-way match, was good, and then the ending factor with Io Sky cashing in the Money in the Bank briefcase, and that being a surprise factor because I was very much focused on what was being booked on the creative part with how the three-way match went, that I totally forgot about the Money in the Bank briefcase factor. And that's a good look for Miss Money in the Bank becoming the new women's champion. As I said, I'm looking forward to it. And then the main event, tribal combat match with Roman Reigns defending his WWE Undisputed Universal title versus his cousin. Main event, Jey Uso. And Jey Uso, the first man to pin Roman Reigns since 2019. It happened at the last pay-per-view, Money in the Bank, during the tag team match with the Usos and Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. And this was a little more personal, and it had 3 years of building, unlike their first match from 2020. From 3 years ago when Roman Reigns, it was one of his first title defenses, and that was versus Jey Uso. And then Jey Uso, after losing to Roman Reigns, he joined forces and aligned himself with the tribal chief, the head of the table, Roman Reigns. And then he's been a main factor to the bloodline and Roman Reigns being as successful as he currently is. And it all came to a boil at Night of Champions when Jimmy Uso kicked Roman Reigns in the face, causing Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa to lose at Night of Champions when they challenged Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens for the Undisputed Tag Team titles. That cost them the match at Night of Champions. And then Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa took out Jimmy Uso, booted him out of the bloodline, and then they were still offering a truce to Jimmy's twin brother, Jey Uso, to stick around with the bloodline. And then Jimmy Uso, if y'all don't remember, during the boiling point of this storyline of how this match came about, this full circle with Jey Uso and Roman Reigns at tonight's SummerSlam, we saw that Jimmy Uso accidentally cost Jey Uso a win at the United States title versus Austin Theory when he tried to interfere on the behalf of his twin brother, Jey Uso, and that caused a distraction to Jey Uso to lose that United States title match. And then the week after that, it was decision time for Jey Uso, and then Jey Uso wasn't happy about the fact that not only that Jimmy Uso cost him the U.S. title, but it's the fact that Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns revealed the fact that Jimmy Uso wasn't happy with the fact that the head of the table and the rest of the bloodline was looking at Jey Uso to be the next tribal chief in line after Roman Reigns. And then Jimmy Uso would admit to Jey Uso that that's true, that he wasn't going for the fact that his twin brother would take Roman Reigns' place as the next tribal chief. And then that's when Jey Uso was barking at Jimmy Uso, and then it looked like Jey Uso was gonna stay with the bloodline and continue being with Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa and keep this bloodline going. And then out of nowhere, he will make the decision to join forces with his brother Jimmy, kicking Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa in the face. And then that led to the tag team match we saw at Money in the Bank, a high caliber, outstanding match we saw with these four wrestlers. And then at SummerSlam, it led to this match tonight with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, and this tribal combat match. And the storyline, as I said, the bloodline storyline, I would say has been the best storyline in pro wrestling in a long time. And with this match with Jey Uso and Roman Reigns, they were performing at a high level At Thunderdome, though, 3 years ago, 2020, when Roman Reigns became the Universal Champion, they couldn't perform in front of a real live crowd, unlike now. And that's why it's more of a, I would say, heated rivalry, and if it has more of that enthusiastic feel to it because of real live crowd interacting, unlike 3 years ago. And then you add the 3 years with the success that the Bloodline has had, and another adding factor is that leading up to tonight's SummerSlam, Jimmy Uso has been taken out from this match, and him accompanying his brother Jey Uso to even out the numbers, with Paul Heyman and Solo Sikoa accompanying Roman Reigns for this tribal combat match. And Jey Uso would be out there to fend for himself on his own. And Solo Sikoa wasn't there ringside after what happened at the previous episode of SmackDown yesterday, and that's why it was only Paul Heyman accompanying Roman Reigns in this match. And this match was a good match, and it's more of a storyline that I would say I've enjoyed more than the actual wrestling. The wrestling quality itself, it's good. It's good, definitely. And I wouldn't say it's much different from 2020. That's why I say it's good. And a special match, a gimmick match like this match where anything goes, they had a gimmick match from 2020. It was a Hell in a Cell match that we saw with these two wrestlers, and the storyline was very well put out. How Jey Uso was looking like the underdog that was never given up and that fought to the latter end, and Jimmy Uso, who was injured at the time, unlike this time, it wasn't kayfabe 3 years ago, and he was involved throwing in the towel for Jey Uso, who would never give up and would fight to the end to get the win over on Roman Reigns. And this time it was a little different though because of the end. I'm gonna tell y'all the match itself, because it's a anything goes match. It had highlight reel spots, tables were involved, kendo sticks were involved, steel chairs were involved, and they got natural chemistry. They grew up together, and wrestling is in their DNA. That's why the match wasn't anything from what I expected. It wasn't anything different from what I expected. The ending, though, I was somewhat guessing an interference to be involved. I did say that in my prediction video. And Solo Sikoa, who wasn't there from the beginning of this match, made a surprise appearance when this match would go on to the stance of the crowd, and Jey Uso had the momentum. Then Solo Sikoa would come out of nowhere and hit him with a Samoan spike, and then there would be a 2-on-1 assault. Since this is a anything goes match where there's no disqualifications or a count out, there's no count outs, no disqualifications. That's why it's anything goes. And then when they went for the tag team finisher, Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa's tag team finisher, Roman Reigns hitting a spear while Solo Sikoa hits their opponent with the Samoan spike at the same time, Jey Uso would move out of the way, and then Roman Reigns would hit Solo Sikoa with the spear. Then Solo Sikoa, he wasn't happy after he got back up. Then Jey Uso would take out Solo Sikoa with the same move that Solo Sikoa took out their brother Jimmy Uso with, and that was a splash from the barricade onto the table. Then Jey Uso had the match won in the bag. Jey Uso had Roman Reigns pinned after hitting the Uso splash, much like he did at Money in the Bank. and out of nowhere, a masked hooded man would come from the crowds, it looked like, and would drag Jey Uso out of the ring. And then Jey Uso is looking confused, and come to find out, it's revealed to be his twin brother, Jimmy Uso. Now, I heard rumors from online and the dirt sheets that Jimmy Uso was rumored to make an appearance at SummerSlam, because obviously what happened leading up to this match and him kayfabe being taken out, he would get involved in this match. I heard talks of that from comments and wrestling fans. Many were expecting this, and come to find out, it did happen. And then Jey Uso was disappointed. He couldn't believe it. He was beside himself. He literally had no reaction. It's like the words was taken out of him. His jaw dropped, and he didn't know what to do. He couldn't know what to do. There was like no reaction to Jey Uso, and Jimmy Uso would take him out and then throw him back in the ring after doing damage to him, and would leave the arena. And then Roman Reigns would hit a spear on his cousin Jey Uso through the table to secure the win and to retain and continue his reign as the Undisputed Universal Champion. And I'll give this match a rating of a 4 out of a 5. The match itself would have been a 3.5 out of a 5. However, it's because of the storyline. They've done a great job at how the storyline is playing out with the bloodline, and this hots things up with the storyline, the angle that the bloodline has got going on right now. It's a adding factor, a twisting factor that the WWE and the creative has got going on with the bloodline. Now, I'm not going to say this is a surprising factor because of what was being talked about, and as I said, it's more of a plot twist, a hotting things up with the storyline with the bloodline. And it's rumored and it's expected that Roman Reigns takes some time off from the WWE and regular TV appearances. He usually does take some time off from appearing as often as he does during big pay-per-view seasons such as WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, and SummerSlam. And we probably won't see Roman Reigns wrestle again, I'd say, till either Crown Jewel or Survivor Series. And then that's why there's a rivalry going to brew with Jimmy and Jey Uso. And this is going to be a first time ever. And that is what I'm looking forward to. And they're obviously going to have natural chemistry. They've been tag teaming ever since they made their debut in the WWE. And that's why they have chemistry, and they're twin brothers. Obviously, they're going to have chemistry. And I'm wanting to see what they're going to produce and how they're going to perform when not tag teaming, however, going against each other. And I want to see where Solo Sikoa is going to be in this storyline with Jimmy and Jey Uso. And Solo Sikoa, he had a intense moment with Roman Reigns after what had happened in this match. Now, I don't know how Solo Sikoa is going to react and what angle and what direction Solo Sikoa is going to go towards. And we'll just have to wait and see. And as a fan, I'm looking forward to it. And I'll give this year's SummerSlam a rating of a 7 a solid 7.5 out of a 10. This was a solid wrestling show. It produced good wrestling, good storytelling. It was very well built up, and that's my ratings for this year's SummerSlam, and that's my review video. Y'all go hit the links in the description box below, and go follow me on other platforms. As I said, the links are going to be in the description. And comment, subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff. And that does it for this video. I'm out of here, y'all. Peace.